A farmer was lost on Mars for 500 days. In order not to starve to death, he collected the crew's bio-waste left and made a big plastic tent to grow potatoes. There was fertilizer and potatoes but no water. He took leftover rocket fuel and oxidized them with fire to separate hydrogen and oxygen. Next, he burnt them. That could create water. After many failures in the plastic tent, water was finally condensed. 60 million kilometers away from him, people were holding a solemn funeral for him on Earth. Actually, Watney was an astronaut. He and his teammates successfully landed the first human flight to Mars. But on the 18th day, they faced a severe dust storm. Everyone presumed he was gone, so they drove the spaceship and left. But thanks to a blood clot which blocked a hole in his space suit, it saved him. Watney treated his wound. All communication equipment was damaged. The amount of food was just enough for 300 days. But Watney knew that the next Mars mission would be conducted 4 years later. This was his only chance to return the Earth. Luckily, the plan of planting potatoes was successful. On the 79th day, Watney harvested potatoes for the first time. So food problem was solved. That day, when he was looking at the map, he suddenly remembered that in 1997 NASA had launched a probe to Mars. So there must be communication devices on Mars. Watney took the rover to find it. At NASA, after announcing Watney's death, they realized signs of life through satellite images of Mars. This extremely surprised everyone. After analyzing Watney's actions, they also guessed his intentions. They immediately restarted the probe that year. The communication equipment on Earth was ready. On Mars, Watney also turned on. Through the movement of the camera, he established rudimentary two-way communication with Earth. To increase the rate of connection, Watney used Base 16 and fixed the program to communicate with NASA via text. The news that Watney was still alive shocked the world. At NASA, all staff tried a lot of ways. But due to old components, the plastic tent exploded and the whole equipment was ruined. The temperature of -100 degrees Celsius caused potato sprouts to die. NASA decided to produce a probe to deliver enough food for Watney to survive until Ares IV's arrival. After calculating, this probe would arrive within 800 days, just in time when Watney ran out of potatoes. But launching a rocket wasn't a game, because the preparation process was too hasty. The rocket exploded soon after liftoff. On Mars, Watney had been eating potatoes for 100 days. Gradually he also lost all hope. He even recorded his last words. Just as the whole world felt sorry for Watney, the China National Space Administration decided to help them. They actively stopped development of a classified booster rocket to turn to help NASA. With China's support, NASA immediately took action to prepare for the second rocket launch. But they had to prepare a bunch of work, so it also took them dozens of days to complete. Moreover, even if the rocket didn't explode this time and successfully landed on Mars, Watney would have starved to death a long time ago. But there was a ray of hope. They still hoped. The rocket must be launched. Right at that moment, an expert proposed an alternative plan. The two-way spaceship could be used and they should cancel food delivery plan. After landing Earth, they took advantage of China's rocket to provide enough power for the spacecraft. Next, the spacecraft would circle the Earth, and they would use cosmological dynamics and Earth's gravity to slingshot to accelerate and shoot the spacecraft straight to Mars. It only took more than 300 days for it to reach Mars again. To sum up, they wanted to bring Watney back instead of just providing food. That was very fast, but because the spaceship completely surpassed their calculations, and there were more and more unidentified objects. If they weren't careful, not only could they not save Watney, but threatened the lives of 5 other astronauts. So their superiors decided not to approve this proposal. But after listening to this plan, Watney's teammates agreed without hesitation. They obstinately changed the course of the spaceship to save Watney. With the support of China, the rocket was successfully powered to carry out the plan. The rescue rocket flew smoothly, but this plan had an extremely difficult problem. It was not enough fuel for the spaceship. They couldn't land on Mars to pick up Watney, but he had to use Ares 4 to fly towards his teammates. What was Ares 4? In order to carry out the plan to set foot on Mars, NASA pre-launched a probe rocket there. Astronauts would use this probe in their next flight 4 years later. At that time, Watney used it to return to Earth. Watney renovated the rover on Mars and crossed through over 3,000 kilometers. He finally found out Ares 4. However, according to calculation of NASA, they learned that because Ares 4 also lacked fuel, it was difficult to merge with the large spacecraft. So they devised many ways to reduce the weight and increase the height of the rocket. Watney removed all the removable stuff. He even threw the lid of the spaceship. When the control center heard their methods, they were extremely anxious. Luckily, experts asked Watney to cover it with a large tarp. When the weight reduction was completed, Watney launched the rocket into the air. The rocket rapidly accelerated that made Watney nearly faint. And 2 of his ribs was broken. But it didn't reach the intended height yet. To better align the ship, the commander ordered a directional explosive decompression of the internal atmosphere. Watney was in front of the commander. She let herself down. The 2 people tried to take each other's hands, but the tether fell short. Watney pierced his pressure suit, and used the escaping air to propel himself to Lewis. Finally, he and the crew were reunited. Humans set foot on the moon in 1969. And it is expected that in 2030, they will set foot on Mars. I believe that before life on Earth is gone, humans will definitely be able to grow potatoes on Mars.